the, let's say, top 3 fights of this card? Any other fights or fighters that you guys just want to spotlight for our listeners and viewers real quick?
I'll mention one fight quick, which is Christian Edwards versus Grant Neal. 2 light heavyweight prospects that Bellator still has high hopes for, despite each taking a loss recently. Edwards got flash KO'd in 30 seconds in his last fight by Ben Parrish as like a minus 1,000 favorite, which was nuts. Neal dropped a split verdict to Alex Polizzi. So now they're both going to try to get back on the horse here, and Bellator's kind of throwing them in there against each other. But it's a tough fight for both guys. I'm curious to see how it goes.
Okay, let's start. Bellator 278, Friday night in Hawaii. Real quick, let me pull it up here. 278, yes. In the bantamweight division, Jornel Lugo takes on Danny Sabatello. Mark, let me send it over to you first. What's your take and what's your pick?
So I'll just give you guys a little background quick. This is kind of part of the Bellator Bantamweight Grand Prix, with Sergio Pettis and James Gallagher both dropping out of the Bellator Bantamweight tournament. Bellator had 2 spots to fill, and rather than just giving them out, they decided to have 2 different qualifier fights to fill them, and that is what this one is, and that's what the next one is that we will discuss. And then the following night, the Saturday night of Bellator, the tournament starts in earnest with the real first-round fights. So the matchups of the tournament now are Archuleta and Stotts, which will be on Saturday, Horiguchi and Mix, which will be on Saturday, Leandro Higo against the winner of this fight that we're about to discuss, and Magomed Magomedov against the winner of the next one we're going to discuss. So just for clarity's sake, a lot of moving parts here. But in this one, which is the qualifier to fight Leandro Higo, we have Jornel Lugo and Danny Sabatello, which is a fantastic fight. Both of these guys have looked really good. Lugo is the dog. He's plus 230. Sabatello is minus 300, which might be a little large. I'll do Lugo first. He's 4-0 in Bellator. He's 8-0 overall. His quality of competition, while not incredible as of yet, has been steadily increasing. Granted, this may be a big jump, but he can do it all, man. He switches stances really easily. His jab is a weapon. It's quick and powerful. He's a slick grappler. And then on the other side, you have Danny Sabatello, the Italian gangster, who has looked legitimately unstoppable when it comes to his wrestling. And he knows it, too. He talks a lot of shit for a guy who's just coming in there looking to wrestle you and not necessarily finish you, but he knows how good he is. This is a guy who's 11-1. His 1 loss is to Erwin Rivera in a tough fight where he got finished in the 4th round. Rivera's not a huge name, but he did have a run in the UFC. He's a credible guy. Not long after that, it looked like Sabatello may end up in the UFC as well. He got a win on Contender Series, but he was not given a contract. So he just kept winning. He beat Damon Blackshear for the Titan FC title and then debuted in Bellator where he beat Brett Johns. And that's a big point for me in picking this fight because I do rate Brett Johns. He is 18-3 in his career, Brett Johns. He's beaten plenty of solid fighters. The guys that have beaten him are Aljamain Sterling, Pedro Munoz, and Danny Sabatello. So that's pretty good company for Sabatello to find himself in. As I said, I do like Jornel Lugo, and I'm not writing him off in this fight. I actually kind of think at those odds he's a little interesting, but I think his well-roundedness is going to be less of a factor than it normally is because I don't think he's going to win on the mat against Sabatello, so he's going to have to try to keep this thing standing, and I'm sure at times he can. He may even have like one good round in there, but I just don't see him being able to keep Sabatello off him as much as he'll need to. The guy is relentless, and if Brett Johns couldn't stop him or get up from under him, then I don't think it's going to be too different for Lugo. So I will say Danny Sabatello by unanimous decision.
Omar, give us your take and ultimately your pick of this fight.
Yeah, well, there's no way that I'm going to top that analysis, so I'm not going to. What I will say is that I will also be going with Danny Sabatello, and actually for the same reason, because he beat Brett Johns. I don't really know most of these guys as well as I know a lot of the guys in the UFC lineups. I'm not exposed to them as much as I am to the guy in the UFC lineup, so a lot of times I do have to kind of compare them with their level of competition that they've had and kind of how they've taken care of it. So with that in mind, Danny Sabatello to me is a little bit more impressive. Both of these guys have fantastic records, but just seems to me like Danny Sabatello has the tools to win this fight against Lugo.
Okay. Moving on down the line. Bellator 278 going down in Hawaii. Enrique Barzola taking on Nikita Mikhailov in the bantamweight division. Omar, why don't you start us off?
Oh, let's go with Mark for these. Mark Scott's fucking fire
on
for
it
for this card, man. Bellator is doing too much, and he's just living up to the hype. So go for it, Mark.
All right, so this is the other qualifier. As I mentioned, the winner here will fight Magomed Magomedov. This was supposed to be Barzola versus Josh Hill, which would have been a great matchup, but Hill had to drop out of the fight. Mikhailov steps in on short notice. He is a small dog, plus 125. Barzola is minus 155. Mikhailov is 8-1. He's 2-0 in Bellator. We haven't seen a ton of him. He fights out of Staryaskal, of course, the home of the heavyweight GOAT. He's a strong wrestler. He has some nasty ground and pound that I'm sure he'll be looking to employ. Across the cage, you have the former Tough Latam 2 winner in Enrique Barzola. And he's where I'm going to go in this fight, and I'll tell you why. I think we may be learning that Barzola is a criminally underrated fighter. The guy went 6-3 in the UFC, and it was kind of a quiet 6-3-1. Kind of a quiet 6-3-1. Really, it should have been 7-2-1 because there is no chance he lost to Kyle Bochniak. That will always stick in my head as one of the worst decisions I've ever seen. So 2 losses in 10 fights. One was to Kevin Aguilar, which maybe doesn't look great. The other was to Movsar Evloev, who's still undefeated, who is one of the fastest rising prospects there is, and who Barzola took a round off and fought to a close decision. And then, say what you will about Darian Caldwell, but to come into Bellator after 2 years off and finish Darian Caldwell says a lot to me. So I'm starting to open my eyes to the skills of Enrique Barzola here. He has faced plenty of good grapplers, Caldwell, Yaya, Evloev, the list goes on. And he has hung with them, so I think he'll be able to keep any wrestling and grappling competitive here with Mikhailov, and I think it will be his ability to mix it up and to keep a pace on his opponent that's going to be the difference here, so I will take him to win by decision.
Omar, you got a pick for us?
I do. I would also go with Barzola by decision. The Ronnie Yaya draw, I think, was... If you can last with Ronnie Yaya, you must be pretty goddamn good, because Ronnie Yaya is no joke. That dude is liable to mess somebody up, whether it's on the hands or on the ground. So, yeah, I'll go with Barzola by decision.
Mark, set the stage for us for this main event of Bellator 278's Juliana Velasquez versus Liz Carmouche.
All right. Velasquez is the favorite here at minus 190. Carmouche is plus 150 as the underdog. It's pretty awesome seeing Liz Carmouche, one half of the first women's fight in UFC history, getting a Bellator title shot at 38 years old in the year 2022. With that said, it's not like Juliana Velasquez is some young prospect. She's 35 herself, granted with a lot less wear and tear than Liz. But Liz hasn't shown any signs of slowing down. Her losses are all to girls who have been at the top of the game. She's already 3-0 in Bellator since making the jump. She has 2 finishes in those 3 wins. And Juliana, on the other hand, is undefeated. She took the belt off Alamale McFarlane pretty handily on most people's cards. But I do think she's had her share of very close fights, including her first defense against Denise Kielholtz was a tough one to score. And for an undefeated fighter, I don't know what it is, but she doesn't necessarily like jump off the page to me. I don't have a ton of confidence in her. And frankly, I might be surprised to see Carmouche as the underdog here. I don't know. I hadn't thought about it that much, but I thought this might be like a pick'em. I don't know. I'm a little surprised by the minus 190 for Velasquez. Maybe I'm off on my read of her, but I think Liz is stronger. I think she throws with more volume. She can wrestle with anyone, historically speaking. Velasquez's jits is dangerous, but Liz is good down there herself. She never rushes. She never gets reckless. She always sticks to her game plan. And I think she can stay safe enough in these grappling exchanges and win the fight on the feet kind of by mixing it up in a way. It's not like she's some dominant striker because she's not. So her getting outstruck is a possibility as well. But I just think her pace, her intelligence, her ability to mix it up, to clinch against the fence if she needs to work in a takedown if she needs to, I think she can keep Velasquez guessing in there and outpoint her to take this fight. So I'm going to go with Liz Carmouche to pull the upset in a 48-47 UD and become the new Bellator 125-pound champ.
Omar, give us your pick and your take.
So, Liz Carmouche has been around for a while. We've obviously seen her rise through the UFC, even coming out of Invicta and kind of being, the whole reason she was picked against Ronda Rousey in the first place was because of kind of her status in the MMA, in the women's MMA world at that point. She had her ups and her downs in the UFC, but you got to imagine the UFC's competition is relatively elite. If there's any black mark on her record, it'd probably be the 2 losses to Alexis Davis, especially in hindsight, I guess, at this point. But realistically, she's turned away a lot of solid fighters. She's lost to a lot of elite fighters. The fighters that she's fought at Bellator, I don't think carry the same type of weight as a lot of the people that she's fought, whether she's won or lost in the UFC too. And I think that goes the same for Juliana Velasquez as well. I think stylistically, I think Carmouche has a very interesting style to match up against Velasquez because she's so skilled on the ground. She's not an idiot. Like, she's not going to I don't think she's going to get caught on the ground based on the experience that she's had in the past. I would imagine her striking has gotten a lot more comprehensive with how her style works, and it's not, whenever we see people kind of start their MMA careers or kind of in the middle of it, there's still a moment where they're trying to get comfortable with how their style is supposed to work for them. And I think Carmouche has kind of gotten into that rhythm, especially since being in Bellator. I expect Liz Carmouche to be able to take control of this fight and do some work on Velasquez. I'm going to go with submission round 2.
I'm going to roll with the very well-rounded and undefeated Bellator champ. I'm going to say that Juliana Velasquez gets it done and stays undefeated and retains her Bellator title.
Someone had to.
Yeah, right? Alrighty. Let us now move on finally to the